I got divorced and moved to Denver 3 months ago. Last weekend, my ex-wife called me, crying on her wedding day to another man. What happened next is absolutely insane. So there I was, sitting in my studio apartment overlooking the construction yard where I'd been running crane for the past 2 months, thinking about how weird it is that you can rebuild everything except the part of yourself that trusted someone completely. 3 months since I signed papers ending my 8-year marriage to Rachel. 3 months since I watched her pack up our life like she was moving inventory at a warehouse clearance sale. The apartment was still mostly empty. A mattress, a folding chair I'd bought from a guy leaving the job site, and a coffee maker that brewed bitter truth every morning. But it was mine. The silence was mine. The view of tower cranes and concrete mixers was mine. After 15 years working construction in Phoenix, I'd taken a transfer to Denver the week after our divorce finalized. The timing was perfect, like the universe handing me a hard hat and pointing toward a fresh start. My phone sat face down on the windowsill. I'd developed this habit of not looking at it during off hours, like avoiding the screen could prevent notifications from existing. But I could feel it there, heavy with things I didn't want to know. Messages from old crew members asking how I was holding up. Updates from the Phoenix Union newsletter. And probably more photos of Rachel's new life that I didn't need to see. Hank, my old union buddy and the guy who'd gotten me this Denver gig, had called 3 days ago. He'd used that careful tone construction guys use when they're about to tell you someone got hurt on the job. The kind of voice that makes your stomach drop before you even hear the words. Caleb, man, I got some news you're probably not gonna want to hear. I'd been expecting this call for weeks. In construction, news travels fast through the union network. Guys talk over coffee breaks, share updates during shift changes. I knew it was only a matter of time before someone felt obligated to fill me in on Rachel's life. Rachel's getting married, he'd said, this Saturday, to that developer guy, Austin Hayes. Austin Hayes. Of course it was Austin. I'd heard the name whispered around Phoenix job sites for months before the divorce. The golden boy of Southwest Development, the guy with perfect teeth and custom suits who drove a luxury truck he'd probably never loaded with anything heavier than his golf clubs. Austin, who'd been her business contact for 2 years before becoming her shoulder to cry on, then finally the man she loved. Austin, who probably never had calluses on his hands or concrete dust in his hair. They're doing it at some fancy resort in Scottsdale, Hank had continued, his voice careful, like he was walking through a construction site blindfolded. Big wedding, 150 people. She's posting about it on Instagram, calling it her fresh start at happiness. Fresh start. Like our marriage had been her rough draft, her practice run for the real thing. I'd thanked Hank for the heads up, told him I appreciated him letting me know, then hung up and stared at the Denver skyline until the sun went down. That was 3 days ago. 3 days of knowing that Rachel was about to walk down another aisle, toward another man, in front of people who'd probably whispered about our divorce for months. Now, it was Saturday evening in Denver, which meant late afternoon in Phoenix, which meant the wedding was probably happening right now. Rachel in white again. Did she buy a new dress, or was she superstitious about reusing her first one? Walking toward a man who wasn't me, in front of people who probably thought she'd upgraded. I picked up my phone for the first time all day. 27 notifications, Instagram mostly. Tags from people who apparently thought I'd want to see this celebration of my replacement. The kind of digital rubbernecking that social media makes so easy, so inevitable. I opened Instagram like you open a work order, contains over time, you can't afford to refuse, but can't afford to turn down either. The first photo was Rachel and Austin on resort steps, some postcard-perfect Arizona mountain backdrop behind them. Her dress was strapless, fitted, expensive, the kind that costs more than most people's monthly rent. His navy suit looked like it had been tailored by someone who charged by the thread. They were laughing, that genuine joy cameras can't fake, the kind of happiness that looks effortless when everything else in your life is falling into place. Behind them, 150 witnesses to their happiness. I recognized some faces. Rachel's family, her work friends, people from our old neighborhood who'd probably spent months choosing sides after the divorce. I scrolled through more photos, each one a small knife twist. The ceremony against mountain views, the reception in what looked like a ballroom that cost more to rent than I made in a month, bridesmaids in dusty rows, groomsmen in matching navy. Everyone beautiful, everyone smiling, everyone part of a story that didn't include me. Then I saw something that made me stop scrolling, like I'd hit a snag in the rigging. A photo of Rachel and Austin cutting their cake, some towering, fondant-covered monument to their union. But it wasn't the cake that caught my attention. It was the woman standing behind them, partially obscured, but visible enough to matter. A woman in her 60s with silver hair, pulled back in an elegant bun, wearing a jade green dress that probably cost more than my truck payment. She was watching the cake cutting, with an expression I recognized because I'd worn it myself for months before the divorce. She looked like someone who knew something that hurt, someone carrying weight that didn't show in photographs. The caption was from someone named Jennifer, one of Rachel's work friends, whose posts I'd been seeing for months. So happy I could burst. Best wedding ever, fairy tale come true, Austin and Rachel are perfect together, bark destined Tobe, all true love, yeah, new beginnings. But there, buried in the comments section like a loose bolt in fresh concrete, was something else. A comment from an account I didn't recognize, with a profile picture that was just a generic placeholder. Beautiful ceremony. Wonder if the groom's wife knows he's on his honeymoon. My breath caught like I'd just seen someone step into a crane's swing radius without looking up. I clicked to see the comment again, but it had already been deleted, scrubbed from the record like it never existed. But I'd seen it. Those words had been real, hanging there for just long enough to plant a seed of doubt in anyone paying attention. Wife? Present tense, not ex-wife? I stared at my phone screen, that woman in the jade green dress suddenly taking on new significance. She hadn't looked like a wedding guest celebrating. She'd looked like someone keeping watch, someone waiting for the right moment to act. Then my phone started ringing, Rachel's name lighting up the screen like a warning beacon. Rachel, who hadn't called me once since the divorce papers were signed. Rachel, who'd communicated only through lawyers for 3 months, treating our 8-year marriage like a business transaction that needed to be dissolved efficiently and without emotion. Rachel was calling me on her wedding day. I should have let it go to voicemail, should have let her deal with whatever crisis she'd created for herself in the bed she'd made with someone else. But you know what habit is like when you've spent 8 years answering someone's calls? Muscle memory runs deeper than common sense, like reaching for your hard hat when you hear machinery starting up, even when you're nowhere near a job site. Caleb? Her voice was tight, strained, like cable under too much load about to snap. I need you to tell me something. Did you know about Austin? Did you know? The question hit me sideways. I had no idea what she was talking about, but the panic in her voice was real, immediate, the kind of fear that cuts through everything else. Rachel, I don't know what you mean. I'm in Denver. I've been here for 3 months. I don't know anything about Austin except what Hank told me about the wedding. Shit, she whispered, then louder, like she was talking to herself as much as to me. Shit, shit, shit. What am I supposed to do now? How am I supposed to handle this? Handle what? Rachel, what happened? But she'd already hung up. I stood there with dead air in my ear, staring at my phone like it might ring again and explain everything. The silence in my apartment felt different now, charged with questions I didn't have answers to. That deleted comment kept echoing in my head. The woman in the jade green dress. Wonder if the groom's wife knows he's on his honeymoon. Wife, present tense. I opened my laptop and did what any construction worker does when something doesn't add up. I started checking the foundation. You learn early in this business that when things look too good to be true, when the surface appears perfect but something feels off, you dig deeper. Because structural problems always show themselves eventually, and it's better to find them before they bring down the whole building. Austin Hayes, Phoenix real estate developer. His company website loaded first, Hayes Development Group, with a professional headshot of Austin in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. The site showcased luxury residential projects and commercial developments across the Southwest, all clean lines and impressive square footage numbers. His LinkedIn profile painted the picture of a successful entrepreneur, with endorsements from business partners and posts about building dreams and creating lasting legacies. His social media was full of motivational quotes about success and determination, photos from charity events and business conferences. The carefully curated life of someone who understood that image was everything in his industry. But the more I scrolled, the more something felt rehearsed about it all, like a performance rather than a life. Then, buried on page 3 of Google results where most people never look, I found it. A local business journal article from 2 years ago, a small photo from some charity fundraiser I would have missed if I hadn't been looking specifically for inconsistencies. Austin in a tuxedo, arm around a woman in a silver gown, both of them smiling at the camera with the easy comfort of people who belong together. The caption was brief, the kind of social page filler that most people scan without really reading. Austin Hayes, principal of Hayes Development Group, with wife Madison Hayes at the annual Builders Association Gala. Wife Madison Hayes. 2 years ago. Not girlfriend, not fiancé, not former wife. Wife. I searched deeper, my construction worker's instinct for thoroughness kicking in like it did when I was checking load calculations or verifying safety protocols. Found their wedding announcement from 5 years prior in the society pages of the Phoenix Business Journal, photos of them at various events over 6 years, evidence of an entire marriage that had existed parallel to Austin's relationship with Rachel, evidence that painted a picture completely different from what Rachel thought she knew. My hands were shaking now, not from cold, but from the adrenaline that comes with discovering that something you thought was solid is actually built on sand. This wasn't just about a deleted comment or a woman in a green dress looking uncomfortable at a wedding. This was about systematic deception on a scale that would make a construction safety inspector's head spin. I searched for divorce records, court filings, any legal documentation that would explain the discrepancy between what I was finding and what Rachel believed to be true. Nothing. No legal separations, no public announcements about marital difficulties, no evidence that Austin Hayes had ever been anything other than a married man playing a very dangerous game. Then I found Madison's Facebook page, her privacy settings loose enough to reveal more than she probably realized. Her profile photo was recent, maybe a month old. Madison smiling at the camera with the kind of confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are and where you belong. She was wearing a wedding ring, standing in what looked like the same luxury apartment Rachel used to visit when she was meeting with Austin about business opportunities. The background was unmistakable, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Camelback Mountain, the kind of view that costs serious money in Phoenix. The same view Rachel had posted photos from during her relationship with Austin, always careful to crop out anything that might reveal too much about where the pictures were taken. Now I understood why. Austin Hayes was still married, which meant Rachel had just married a married man. Her fairy tale wedding was built on a foundation that would collapse the moment anyone started asking the right questions. My phone buzzed against the desk. A text from Rachel. "Call me back, please." I stared at those words, remembering all the times I'd wanted to hear please from her during the divorce proceedings. When I'd asked her to try counseling one more time. When I'd suggested we take a break instead of jumping straight to lawyers. When I'd begged her to tell me what I'd done wrong, what I could fix, how I could become the man she needed me to be. The word please had been absent from all of those conversations, replaced by cool efficiency and legal terminology. Now she needed me. I could have ignored it, could have let her figure out whatever mess she'd walked into on her own. After the way she'd left, the careful division of assets, the lawyer meetings where she'd looked at me like I was just another problem to solve, I'd earned the right to let her handle this crisis alone. But here's the thing about being the person who got left behind. You know exactly how it feels to be abandoned when you need someone most. And you have a choice in moments like this. You can become the thing that hurt you, or you can be better than the situation that broke you. You can build something stronger from the rubble, or you can just add to the pile of debris. I typed back, my fingers hesitating over the keys. "I'll call you in 10 minutes, but first, what did the guest say?" The reply came almost immediately, like she'd been staring at her phone, waiting for my response. She said Austin's wife wants her husband back. Just like that, the story I thought I knew became something else entirely. Like discovering the blueprints you've been following are for a completely different building, and you've been pouring concrete in all the wrong places. I called her back, and she answered before the first ring finished. "Caleb," she said, just my name, but the way she said it, breathless, desperate, like someone calling for help from a collapsing structure, told me everything I needed to know about the state she was in. "Tell me what happened," I said, settling back in my folding chair and looking out at the Denver construction yard below. The cranes stood silent against the darkening sky, like steel sentinels keeping watch over projects that would eventually become something solid, something real, something honest. She inhaled, shaky, like someone trying to steady herself on ground that had just shifted beneath her feet. The wedding was perfect, Caleb. Everything went exactly as planned. The ceremony was beautiful. The vows were perfect. Austin cried when he saw me walking down the aisle. I cried. Half the guests were crying. It was everything I dreamed about. I waited, letting her work through it the way you do when someone's trying to explain a complicated accident. Sometimes you have to let people tell the story in their own way, even when you can see where it's heading. The reception was incredible, she continued, her voice gaining momentum like someone who needed to get it all out before she lost the nerve. Filet mignon and Chilean sea boss, champagne that cost more per bottle than we spent on our entire wedding reception. Our wedding. She kept saying our wedding when she meant hers and Austin's, like the words were automatic, muscle memory she couldn't quite override. Everything was perfect until the speeches, she said, and I could hear the shift in her voice, the moment when the fairy tale had started to unravel. Austin's father went first, typical father of the groom stuff about how proud he was, how Austin had always been destined for great things. Then my mom, then the best man with some embarrassing college stories. All normal wedding reception material. She paused, and I could picture her in whatever hotel room or bathroom she'd locked herself into, trying to process what had happened to her perfect day. And then this woman stood up. I'd never seen her before in my life, Caleb. She wasn't on the guest list, wasn't at the rehearsal dinner, wasn't part of any of the pre-wedding events. She just appeared at the reception like she belonged there. What did she look like? I asked, though I had a feeling I already knew the answer. Older, maybe early 60s, with silver hair pulled back in this elegant style. She was wearing a jade green dress that probably cost more than most people's cars. She looked distinguished, I guess, like someone who belonged in boardrooms and charity galas. She walked up to the microphone like she had every right to be there, the woman from the Instagram photo. I'd been right about her expression. She hadn't been there to celebrate. And she smiled, Rachel continued, her voice, dropping to almost a whisper. This calm, controlled smile, like she was delivering a weather report instead of dropping a bomb. She said, "Good evening, everyone. I'm Linda Anderson, and I'm here representing Madison Hayes, who couldn't attend today because she's managing a family emergency back home." I felt my stomach drop. Anderson. As in Anderson Construction, one of the biggest commercial builders in the Southwest, as in the family that had been building Phoenix's skyline for 3 decades. She said Madison wanted her to convey congratulations on the beautiful ceremony, Rachel went on, her voice getting smaller with each word, and to remind Austin that she'll be waiting for him when he returns from his honeymoon. As his wife of 5 years, she's been very understanding about his extracurricular activities, but bigamy crosses a line even she won't tolerate. The silence that followed must have been profound. I could picture it. 150 people in a ballroom, champagne glasses frozen halfway to lips. The kind of stunned quiet that follows industrial accidents when everyone's trying to process what they just witnessed. What did Austin do? I asked, though I suspected I knew the answer to that too. He stood up so fast his chair fell over, Rachel said, and I could hear tears starting in her voice. He was pale. God, Caleb, I've never seen anyone go that white that fast, like all the blood had just drained out of his face. He said there had been some kind of mistake, that he didn't know what this woman was talking about. He tried to laugh it off, said it was obviously some kind of prank, very funny, haha, let's all move on and get back to celebrating. But Linda wasn't done, Rachel continued, and now she was crying openly. She pulled out her phone and said she had Madison on video call, asked if the wedding party would like to meet the actual Mrs. Hayes. She started walking toward Austin with the phone, and that's when he just ran. Ran? Literally ran out of the ballroom, just left me there at our wedding in front of 150 people, including my entire family, his entire family, everyone we work with. Left me standing there in my wedding dress while this woman explained how Madison had suspected for over a year, but only recently gotten proof. I closed my eyes, trying to imagine the scene. Austin Hayes, the Golden Boy developer with his perfect teeth and custom suits, running away from his own wedding reception like a contractor fleeing a safety inspection. "What did you do?" I asked. I stood there like an idiot. Linda was still at the microphone, explaining how Madison had hired a private investigator. how she had evidence, receipts, photos, text messages, bank records, everything. She said Madison had tried to handle it quietly, had attempted to contact Austin multiple times to discuss divorce terms, but he'd refused to respond to her calls or her lawyer's letters. Rachel took a shaky breath. Linda said Madison had even tried calling me directly to warn me, but I didn't answer because I didn't recognize the number. I thought it was a telemarketer during wedding week. If she'd answered that call, everything would have been different. But that's the thing about construction accidents. They usually involve a chain of small decisions that individually seem harmless but combine to create disaster. Linda is Madison's mother, Rachel finished. Madison's mother crashed my wedding to expose her son-in-law's bigamy. The word hung there like a crane load that wasn't properly secured. Bigamy? Rachel, I said carefully, did you have any idea Austin was married? No, God, no. How could I? I was at his apartment all the time. I met his business partners, his development team, his family. There was no wife, no signs, nothing that suggested he was lying about being single. But there had been signs. There always are. Like safety violations, obvious once you know what to look for, invisible when you're focused on something else. The business trips that couldn't be verified, the way he never wanted to go to certain restaurants or parts of town, the phone calls he took in private, the fact that Rachel had never been to a Hayes family holiday or met his extended relatives. Where are you now? I asked. The bridal suite at the resort. I locked myself in after everything. Most of the guests left once Linda finished explaining the situation. My mother is downstairs trying to salvage what she can of the reception, figure out what to do about the catering bill, the venue contract. Austin's father is apparently screaming at the hotel management about lawsuits and demanding security footage to prove Linda was trespassing. She laughed, a broken sound that had no humor in it. The funny thing is, Linda wasn't trespassing. Turns out she's on the board of directors for the resort. The Anderson family helped finance the original construction. Of course she was. The Anderson family had been building Phoenix since before Austin Hayes was born, their name etched into the foundation of half the city's commercial district. Linda Anderson wasn't just some random woman with a grudge. She was construction royalty defending her family's reputation against a con artist who had made the mistake of targeting the wrong daughter. Rachel, I said, surprised by how gentle my voice sounded. Why did you call me? The question caught her off guard. I could hear her breathing change, like someone trying to figure out how to explain something they didn't fully understand themselves. I don't know, she said finally. You were the first person I thought of. Isn't that insane? I left you. I divorced you for him. I married someone else while you were trying to rebuild your life in another state. And when everything fell apart, when my perfect new life turned into a nightmare, you were the person I needed to talk to. There was something almost cosmic about that irony, like the universe had a twisted sense of humor about human nature and the way we always reach for what we think we've lost when everything else crumbles. Have you talked to Austin since he ran? I asked. He's been calling nonstop, texting. His messages are getting more desperate by the hour. He says it's complicated, that Madison's his wife on paper, but they've been separated for 2 years, that he was going to divorce her, but it was messy because of the business relationships, that he loves me, that this doesn't change anything between us. Do you believe him? I don't know what to believe anymore. I've been going through every conversation we ever had, every text message, looking for clues I missed. And you know what's scary? I can't find any obvious lies. He was just careful. He never actually said he'd never been married. He said his last serious relationship ended badly. Technically, that's true if you consider being trapped in a loveless marriage a bad relationship. I walked to my window, looked out at the Denver skyline lighting up building by building, construction sites that would become something solid, permanent, honest. Rachel, listen, I need you to think clearly. If Austin's been separated from Madison for 2 years, why wouldn't anyone know? Why wouldn't his business partners know? His family? He said he kept it quiet because of the company, because investors don't like instability in leadership, because he was waiting for the right financial moment to make the break clean. And you think the right financial moment was after marrying someone else? Silence, then. When you put it that way, it sounds insane. Because it is insane. Rachel, here's what you're going to do. First, stop answering Austin's calls. Block his number for tonight. You need space to think without him feeding you more explanations that sound reasonable but don't add up. Second, ask your mother to find out everything she can about Linda Anderson and Madison Hayes. If Linda showed up with evidence, she has a reason beyond just protecting her daughter. Find out what that reason is. I paused, choosing my words carefully. Third, get out of that wedding dress, order room service, and let yourself feel this. Don't try to fix it tonight. Don't try to make sense of it all right now. Just survive until tomorrow. I don't want to feel it, she whispered. I know, but you're going to have to eventually. Might as well be now while you have privacy and room service. She laughed, a broken sound that still managed to be a laugh. When did you get so wise? Denver puts wisdom in the mountain air, I said. That and working at altitude teaches you to check your equipment twice and think before you make moves that can't be undone. Another laugh, less broken this time. Caleb, yeah, I'm sorry for everything, for how I ended things, for what I put you through. Rachel, stop. You don't need to apologize. Tonight, apologies can wait. Survival comes first. Okay, she whispered. We were quiet for a moment, the silence comfortable in a way it hadn't been between us in years. Will you answer if I call again? She asked. It was a fair question. I don't know, I said honestly. Ask me tomorrow. Fair enough. She paused. Caleb, one more thing. When you talk to your mother, ask her what she knows about Hayes Development Group. Ask if Austin's company is publicly traded. And if it is, ask what happens to stock prices when the principal's personal life becomes a public scandal. I heard her breath catch as the implication sank in. You think this will affect his business? If Austin kept his marriage secret for business reasons, then exposing it publicly at a wedding, in front of investors and business partners, wouldn't just destroy his personal life. It would destroy his professional life too. The construction industry runs on trust, and bigamy isn't exactly a confidence-building revelation. I'll find out, Rachel said. Thank you, Caleb, for listening, for not being cruel when you had every right to be. Cruelty's easy, I said. Being decent takes more effort, but it's better for everyone in the long run. We hung up, and I stood in my empty apartment looking out at the honest simplicity of Denver's skyline. Somewhere in this city, people were having dinner, couples were walking downtown holding hands, and someone was probably planning a wedding based on truth instead of lies. And somewhere in Phoenix, Rachel was taking off her wedding dress and confronting the reality that sometimes the life you think you want is built on a foundation that was never meant to support the weight. I poured myself a beer, sat in my folding chair with the view of cranes and concrete, and let myself feel something I hadn't felt in months. Not satisfaction exactly, not vindication, but maybe a sense that the universe occasionally levels its own foundations. Sometimes the truth has its own structural integrity, and lies, no matter how carefully constructed, eventually collapse under their own weight. And sometimes, just sometimes, the guy with the hard hat and the honest hands gets to watch it happen from a safe distance, while building something better with tools that don't lie.